Oh, NFL Week 15 has wrapped up here for the season sim. It's probably one of the craziest weeks we've ever seen. So let's jump right into this 16-game week, starting with Thursday Night Football. The Broncos lose to the Texans 16-15. The Broncos drive all the way down the field. This was a tie 9 game with 8 minutes to go. The Broncos scored. The Texans jump offside. They go for 2, miss it. The Texans, one play, 75 yards, take the lead based off the Broncos' mistake. Russell Wilson then throws a late pick to seal the deal. 284 for Stroud, 220 for Russell Wilson, and the Texans are at 8-6. On to the Sunday games. The Bears beat the Giants 24-17, a tight one-possession game in MetLife. But Justin Fields playing well again, 203 and a touchdown. Had 2 rushing touchdowns as well in 82 rushing yards as DJ Moore was 5 for 85 through the air. Tommy DeVito, first NFL start, 213, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Saquon Barkley had a rushing touchdown. Both these teams currently sit at 4-10. As the Steelers beat the Saints 24-16, and the Saints, it all comes down to next week. As long as they can win, then they stay alive for the NFC South. But here, Kenny Pickett dominated, 20 for 27, 205 and a touchdown. Najee Harris a rushing touchdown. Pickens and Johnson both went off. Carr, 248, a touchdown and a pick. Chris Olave, though, had a nice day as the Saints fall to 5-9. Steelers are 8-6. Big game in Cincinnati. The Jaguars win 37-31 and hang on to knock off the Bengals in a huge game. As now Jacksonville is 9-5. Trevor Lawrence 328 and 4 touchdowns for him. Calvin Ridley 108 and a touchdown. Christian Kirk caught one as well. Joe Burrow 343, 3 touchdowns as Chase and Higgins each had big days. The Bengals, with that loss, currently sit outside the playoffs, and the Jaguars are getting closer to division title. The Buccaneers win 27-17 and get their revenge on the Falcons to improve to 7-7, and a win next week, no matter what, seals the division. As Baker Mayfield threw for 248 and 3 touchdowns. Taylor Heineke started today because Desmond Ridder, of course, got benched after that big loss. The Falcons are now 4-10, eliminated from playoff contention as Bijan Robinson had 85 yards and a rushing touchdown, and Drake London had a big day. The Dolphins beat the Patriots 30-14 as Miami's had one of the easiest schedules in the league, but they still look pretty good. And a win today means they are in the playoffs at 10-4. Tua didn't even throw a passing touchdown, 224 through the air. Mostert had the only offensive touchdown for the Dolphins today. This is their defense, with Jalen Phillips and Javon Holland having the 2 defensive touchdowns. Mac Jones has played horrible today, 2 interceptions. Ramondre Stevenson, 45 yards and a rushing touchdown. The Colts get a bounce back after their blowout loss to the Chargers. They beat the Commanders 31-20 to get back to 500. They're 7-7. Richardson 187 and a touchdown, had a rushing one as well. Taylor had 2 rushing touchdowns. As Sam Howell has been giving the ball away quite often to these defenses. Had a touchdown to Jahan Dotson. Brian Robinson Jr. had a rushing touchdown. The Commanders are now 3-11 on the season. Possibly the craziest game of the year. The Titans were up 36-7 with 3 minutes to go in the game, and Carolina scores 29 unanswered to tie the game, but the Titans get the game-winning field goal and win. Levis 258, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Henry 96 and a touchdown. Bryce Young 8 incompletions and 344 yards, the most in his career, throwing 2 touchdowns, one of them to Hayden Hurst, who's finally had his breakout game this year. The Bills decimate the Raiders 39-10. After the Raiders had a 19-point comeback a year ago in Buffalo, the Bills say, yeah, not today. Josh Allen nearly 380 through the air through 3 touchdowns. Gabe Davis had a big game, so did Khalil Shakir. Aiden O'Connell threw 2 interceptions and was 50% through the air. Buffalo at 11-3. The Raiders slipped to 4-10 and are inside the top 5 at the moment for the draft for a first-round pick. The 4 o'clock games, upset of the week. Cleveland beats Dallas 27-15, and the Cowboys are starting to get on a skidding streak right here. As Prescott threw 2 picks, Greg Newsome had a pick 6. He also threw a touchdown to Hayden Hendershot. Watson only threw 180, a touchdown and a pick, but Nick Chubb had a rushing touchdown. Cleveland 7-7 and not out of it yet. The Cowboys are 11-3 and starting to fall as Philadelphia leads their division. Speaking of the Eagles, they beat the Cardinals 28-12 in Arizona to get a huge win to take the lead in the division, as Philadelphia is now 12-2. Hurts 236, 2 touchdowns. DeAndre Swift and Kenneth Gainwell had rushing touchdowns. A.J. Brown 72 and a receiving touchdown. Kyler Murray 217, a touchdown and a pick. And the Cardinals at 2-12 currently have the number 1 overall pick, which they're eyeing on Marvin Harrison Jr. The Eagles, though, second in the NFC and first in the division. On to these final 3 4 o'clock games, which were insane. The Rams went on a last-second field goal and beat the 49ers in Sam Darnold's final start before Brock Purdy comes back. And also for the 49ers, Sam Darnold went 1-3 in their final 4 games. As Darnold 199, 2 touchdowns and a pick, McCaffrey didn't do much. The Rams stopped him. As Stafford 264, 2 touchdowns and a pick, they're now 9-5 and 1 game behind the Niners for the division lead. Another huge upset, and again, another last-second field goal. This is the 3rd one of the week. The Vikings beat the Lions 27-24 and give the Lions their 2nd loss in the year. As Kirk Cousins 291, 2 touchdowns. Goff threw for 239, 3 touchdowns, but had an interception as Laporta and Williams went off. Addison and Jefferson had good days for the Vikings, who are 7-7, and that win really helps them put them in the picture for the playoffs again. America's Game of the Week, the Ravens beat the Chiefs 24-20 in Arrowhead. Kansas City, we talked about last year how they didn't look like themselves, but they were still winning games. Not the case so far this year. As Mahomes 261, they look like themselves this year, but they can't finish these close games. Lamar Jackson, by the way, the fewest yards per game out of any quarterback to average 3 touchdowns a game. I mean, they are not doing much through the year, but the Ravens are 10-4, Chiefs are 9-5. Sunday Night Football in Green Bay sees the Seahawks winning 17-7, but tragedy for the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love, late in the second quarter, went down with an ankle injury. He's questionable because the Packers play on Thursday against the Saints in New Orleans. Sean Clifford came in, threw for 102. Geno Smith, 219, 2 touchdowns and an interception, but it puts the Seahawks in the playoffs at 8-6. Packers on the outside looking in, sitting at 7-7. And then finally, Monday Night Football, game with little implication, but it has the Chargers winning 31-16 over the Jets and winning their 2nd in a row as they beat the Colts by 21. They beat the Jets by 15. Easton Stick 20 for 35, 227, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Zach Wilson 224 and a touchdown. And again, the Jets don't have a turnover, but their offense just cannot capitalize. They're officially eliminated from playoff contention at 5-9. Chargers have won 2 in a row. They're 4-10. Here's the AFC standings, and also a reminder in the description below, a Super Bowl VIII sweepstakes document. Fill that out to be a part of the Super Bowl VIII experience. Bills, Ravens, Jaguars now at 3rd, and the Chiefs slip to 4th. Dolphins at 10-4, Steelers, and now the Texans are in at 8-6. But the Broncos, Browns, Bengals, Colts at 7-7 each. Titans at 6-8 are the only teams alive to make the playoffs. In the NFC, the Lions and Eagles tied at the top at 12-2, Niners at 10-4, Bucks at 7-7, Cowboys 11-3, Rams at 9-5, Seattle 8-6, Vikings, Packers, Saints, the only teams in the NFC that can make it. The Saints have to win the division to make it in. Vikings and Packers have to contend with the Seahawks and the Rams for a wild card spot if they want to get in. This is ASC signing off.